Hi, this is Mark Pritchard again with the second part of our look at creating a WebLogic server domain with JRockit Virtual Edition and Oracle Virtual Machine. So in the first part we created and configured the three virtual machine images, and what I've done is to basically just tar those up and SCP them over to the OVM server, where we're going to use the OVM manager to discover them as domain templates and then create virtual machine images. So here's the /OVS/seed pool on the OVM server, and I'm using a single OVM server for this demonstration. And I've created three directories in the seed pool for the three virtual machine templates, and I copied the files over, the system.img and the vm.cfg, and just unzipped them into those directories. So if we just take a quick look here, you can see let me get the focus, JRVE domain, and I'll look at the admin server one, cd JRVE admin server, there we go. And you can see here we've got the system.img virtual image, and I've got the configuration here, and there you can see the absolute path in the seed pool that we're going to use to create the domain template. So if I were to go now to the OVM manager, what you do is you go here to virtual machine templates, and then you can simply create a template just by importing it from the file system. And if you put it in the seed pool, if you put in its own directory under the seed pool directory on the OVM server, then it will automatically be discovered, and you can just import it very simply as a virtual machine template. So I've already done that, and I've also gone ahead and used those templates to create an instance of each template for the admin server and the two managed servers. Of course, you can have as many instances as you like of a single template. The template, of course, won't change. The instances are then sort of independent virtual machines. The template allows for a maximum memory size of 1 gig. That's what we specified when we set up the JRockit VE configuration. I've gone in and reduced that slightly to half a gig. Again, for the virtual machine itself, I can change that memory. I can drop that down depending on what I need for the particular virtual machine. Now I can start and stop and pause and run the virtual machine images here from the OVM manager, but we'll see more if I actually do this directly from the OVM server itself. So what I'm going to do is here is I've got 3 terminal windows, one for each of the servers. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change to the running pool. Let me just go down one, and I want to go to the running pool now, because this is where the virtual machine images run. So the templates are in the seed pool, but the virtual machine images go into the running pool. And if you see there, the OVM manager actually prepends a numerical identifier just to make sure that those are unique, because these directories do have to be unique for OVM. So I'm just going to change to this one, which is the admin server, and again in there you'll see the same stuff, but this time we have the vm.cfg, which is fixed up for the running pool, so we have a correct absolute path there. And as you'll notice, the /OVS is actually a mount. So that's all well and good, and we're now ready to run our virtual machine. So what I'm going to do is I'll do an xm create, and we'll have a console and vm.cfg. Here's the virtual machine configuration. So here's the PyGrub bootloader. You can see here that JRockit VE is now starting up. There's the JRockit VE version information, and that's the host name that we're listening on. Here we are, we've loaded you can see the WebLogic JRVE patch jars being loaded via that extensions directory, so that's on the class path. That's what we need for that startup class. And you can see WebLogic server coming up, and you'll notice how much quicker this is than using a virtual machine with a guest operating system, for example. So that's my server up and running. What I can do now is I can actually go to a console. I'm going to have to refresh this because I had this running earlier. So what I'm actually going to do here is we're going to have to reload this. So let's do that. And there's my admin console. So it'll just take a few seconds. Then I can log in. Let me show you a few things. So here's our JRockit VE domain. Here are the servers. We have our admin server, which is running. We haven't yet started the managed servers, but I'll do that in a minute. And a couple of other things to note. The startup and shutdown class, I mentioned the startup class. This is what enables the integration of the JRockit SSHD, the file access with the WebLogic security realm. So that's the class, and we've targeted to all three servers so that we can look at the log files for each of the admin and the managed servers. If we want to deploy, remember that we actually enabled an NFS mount for the admin server. So for example, I could go in like this, and if you remember, under /application, which is the root of the virtual file system, I created this NFS directory, which is actually a mount from my hosted system, and you can see I had a sample application in there. So that will be an easy way for me to do deployments dynamically into the virtual machine environment. So what I might also do is we'll have a look at the security realm real quickly, just to show you what happened. I set up a user, a simple user, not an admin user. This is just a user called Mark. If I go to roles and policies, and I go to realm policies, down here under the domain policies, you can see we have this one for the SSH file access. There we are. So if I want to see the policy conditions, well, I've set this up so that either an admin user, i.e. WebLogic, or the user Mark can actually SSH into this box using the SSH daemon, and I can retrieve files in that sense. So that's all in place. What we can do now, for example, is look at how that works. So I'll just drop this down, and let me pop this window down. I can go to my Windows desktop. We'll have a look at WLST in a minute, but let me just bring up WinSCP, and we'll go to the admin server, which we have running, and this is mpritchard VM1 US oracle.com, and we've got here, I'll use the user Mark, and I'll just give my password. And there we go. You can see I can go in and I can see the log files. So for example, I'll go to the server, I'll go under logs, and there I could go and now retrieve those log files. I could pull them out for offline analysis or whatever I want to do. So that's how the WebLogic security subsystem, the security realm, interfaces with the JRockit VE SSHD. Let's have a look at one last thing. What I've done here is I've switched to my Windows system, where I've got a WebLogic 10.3.2 installation, again with the WLS JRVE patch jars applied, and I've just started WLST. Now, if we want to start the servers using sort of WLST scripts, well, the standard way would be to connect to the node manager. Well, we can't do that in exactly the same way here because we don't have a node manager. There is no OS running for these virtual machines. What happens is we have this thing called the VMM node manager client, which actually extends the nm connect command to allow us basically to make use of the OVM Manager Web Service API, and that's what's really going on here. But it means that my scripts can keep, very similar format. So let me do this. Let me say I'm going to connect to the node manager. Now, what I'm really doing is connecting to the OVM Manager, which is what I can now use to start up virtual machines. So let me do, for example, I can do nm start, and then I give the name of the virtual machine. So here it's my JRVE domain underscore managed server 1, and I can give that, and we'll now see that the OVM manager is going to start up that virtual machine instance. And the way we can see that is if we go back over here, let's say I'm going to do, let me do an xm list command. You can actually see the virtual machines here, and you can see managed server 1 is up. So for example, what I can do is something like xm console, and I can give the ID, which here would be 95. So I can now attach to that. Now this server is probably, here we are, we can just catch the end of it as that server comes up, and it's connected to the domain, to the admin server. It's now up and running on its IP address and port. If we were to go back here, I could then use nm start and nm kills to start other servers and so on. So that's how you integrate with the WLST with the virtual machine node manager. What I'm going to do just finally is just to show you a little bit more about how you start and stop virtual machines in the OVM environment. So here I am in my managed server 2 environment. So of course here I can do something like, xm create -c vm.cfg. There we go. So now I'm starting up my managed server 2 virtual machine. And one of the things that you can do with JRockit VE, which is very nice, is I can go in here and I have a special hotkey. So I press 1 and I get this information about the server, about its network address and so on. And I can also get things like various statistics. I can get thread dumps, stack traces, and so on if I want as well. So there we go. There's a thread dump that I've got there. And then one of the things, if I want to, for example, shut down a virtual machine, useful hotkey is F5. That enables me to, for example, give a Control-C into that window, and I can shut down the server there. And I could do the same thing using the WLST. So I've got managed server 1 running here. I could go in here and I could actually do nm kill. Once again, I do JRVE domain managed server 1. Let me pass that in, and I'll now be shutting down that server. So if I drop that out the way and I went back to this window, you'd see the servers already shut down. So that concludes a quick look at how you set up, how you take a WebLogic server 10.3.2 domain and you virtualize it using JRockit VE and Oracle Virtual Machine.